The first night, Ethan Blackwood installed the hidden cameras. He told himself it was nothing more than smart business sense mixed with a father's instinctive fear. As the youngest billionaire tech investor in the city, security was second nature to him. He protected assets, monitored systems, and anticipated threats before they ever surfaced. But his most valuable investment had never been money. It was his children. Ethan was the sole parent of 3 fragile lives. His triplet sons, Leo, Noah, and Eli, born prematurely after a devastating pregnancy. The boys survived, but their mother did not. Her death left a hollow silence inside Ethan, one that never truly faded. From that day forward, his entire world narrowed to a single purpose: protecting the little family he had left. At just 2 years old, the triplets were unable to walk or speak, their bodies weakened by a rare neurological condition doctors warned might never improve. Progress was uncertain. Hope was limited. Caregivers came and went. Some quit within weeks, overwhelmed by the constant care. Others stayed but looked at the children with thinly veiled impatience, or worse, quiet resentment hidden behind forced smiles. Ethan noticed everything. Trust did not come easily to a man who had already lost so much. So, when he hired a new maid, a reserved young woman named Clara, he activated the cameras. Not out of malice, not out of control, out of fear. He never told her. He only wanted the truth, the unfiltered reality of how his sons were treated when no authority figure was watching. Clara arrived on a rainy Monday morning, her shoes worn, her blue uniform plain and neatly pressed. She didn't gape at the size of the mansion or comment on the heavy stillness that filled its halls. She didn't glance at Ethan's expensive watch or the portraits lining the walls. When he introduced her to the triplets, she didn't hesitate. She knelt down immediately, lowering herself to their level, smiling as if time itself had slowed just for them. Ethan noticed, but dismissed it. First days were always performances. Kindness was easy at the beginning. What mattered was what came later, when patience wore thin, when the crying lasted for hours, when feeding became exhausting, when improvement never arrived. That was when true character revealed itself. That was why the cameras were there. For the first few days, Ethan barely checked the footage. Meetings stretched late into the night, work consumed him, and exhaustion followed him home. But one sleepless night, restless and alone, he opened the security app on his phone. The screen split into multiple views: the nursery, the playroom, the kitchen. He expected nothing. Instead, he froze. Clara was sitting on the floor, toys scattered around her. She clapped her hands gently, keeping a slow, steady rhythm. The triplets sat propped up with soft cushions, their movements limited, but their eyes, those eyes, were locked onto her face. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't distracted. She began to hum, not a cheerful nursery rhyme, but a calm, grounding melody that felt deliberate and soothing. When Leo started to cry, Clara didn't sigh or hurry him along. She placed her hand softly on his chest and adjusted her breathing to match his. Slowly, his sobs faded. Something tightened in Ethan's chest. He brushed it off. One moment meant nothing. Anyone could act patient for a short while, but the moments didn't stop. Night after night, he watched more. Clara spoke to the boys constantly, narrating everything she did as if they could understand every word. She praised the smallest reactions. She celebrated tiny movements doctors had told Ethan were meaningless. "Good job holding your head up, Noah," she whispered one afternoon, tears glistening in her eyes as if she had witnessed a miracle. At first, Ethan scoffed. He had paid millions to specialists who warned him against false hope. Hope, they said, could be cruel, dangerous. Yet here was a maid, earning a fraction of what those experts did, handing hope out freely, without hesitation or fear. Then one evening, something happened that made Ethan sit up straight. Clara had arranged the triplets in a circle on soft mats. In the center, she placed a simple pot and its lid. Slowly, gently, she tapped the lid with her fingers, creating a soft metallic sound that echoed lightly through the room. And that was when everything began to change. The boy's eyes widened. Time seemed to stretch as Eli slowly, almost painfully slowly, lifted his hand and brushed the metal lid. A soft clang echoed through the room. Clara froze. Then her face broke into a smile so wide it trembled. She didn't clap. She didn't cheer. Instead, she leaned forward, tears spilling freely, and whispered in a shaking voice, "You did it. You really did it." Ethan replayed the footage again and again, his heart pounding harder each time. The doctors had been clear. Eli had minimal motor response. And yet, this wasn't an accident. This was intention. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's work began to unravel. Boardrooms and contracts no longer held his focus. His mind lived in the nursery now, eyes fixed on glowing screens, waiting for moments no spreadsheet could measure. Clara never knew she was being watched. She never exaggerated her care. When the boys were difficult, she stayed calm. When exhaustion weighed her down, she didn't walk away. She sat on the floor with them, sharing the silence instead of escaping it. One night, Ethan watched her read to them long after her shift had ended. Another night, he saw her kneeling beside their beds, praying silently, her hands trembling as though she were asking the universe for something far beyond herself. Then came the night that changed everything. Ethan had returned early from a business trip and sat alone in his office, watching the live feed. The triplets were unusually restless, their cries louder and sharper than before. Clara tried everything, singing, rocking, gently massaging their hands just as therapists had taught her. Nothing worked. Ethan felt irritation rise. He wondered if this was the breaking point, the moment she would falter, like so many before her. But Clara did something no one expected. She dimmed the lights until only a small lamp remained. Then she lay down on the floor between the cribs, sliding one hand into each, so the boys could feel her touch, and she began to speak. Not a bedtime story, not a fairy tale, but her truth. She told them about growing up poor, about losing her parents too young, about feeling invisible in a world that never seemed to notice her. Her voice cracked as she told them she believed they were stronger than anyone realized. One by one, the crying stopped. The room fell silent, filled only with soft, steady breathing. Ethan's vision blurred. He realized he was crying, not quietly, but with deep, uncontrollable sobs he had been holding back for years. He thought of his wife, of the promises he had made, of how protection wasn't just money, walls, or cameras. It was love. It was patience. It was belief. In that moment, Ethan understood something both terrifying and beautiful. Clara was giving his son something he never had time. The next morning, Ethan did something he had never done before. He canceled every meeting. He sat in the playroom while Clara worked. No screens, no cameras, just presence. When she noticed him watching, she looked nervous, afraid she had done something wrong. Instead, Ethan sat down on the floor and asked her to show him what she did every day. For the first time since his wife's death, Ethan laughed as one of the boys responded to a sound. For the first time, he felt hope, without fear. Weeks later, Ethan made a decision that stunned his entire staff. He removed every hidden camera from the nursery. He raised Clara's salary beyond anything she had imagined. But more than that, he asked her to stay, not as a maid, but as family. Inspired by Clara's instinctive methods, Ethan invested in new therapies rooted in music, touch, patience, and emotional safety. Doctors were astonished when the triplets began to show slow but undeniable improvement. Small movements, longer focus, gentle sounds that almost resembled words. There was no sudden miracle. The boys didn't wake up walking or speaking perfectly, but something far more powerful happened. They were no longer just protected. They were understood. Ethan stopped hiding behind cameras and started showing up. He learned that true wealth wasn't measured in billions, but in moments, like the first time Noah smiled at his father, or the first time Leo responded to his name. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness can change lives, that patience can unlock miracles, and that the greatest heroes are often the ones no one is watching, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because these stories aren't just entertainment. They're reminders of what truly matters. Subscribe now, and stay with us for more powerful, emotional stories that touch the heart and change the way you see the world.